Is the third day of March 2013, and we're here at Robi Ganguly's place, interviewing him on the early days of the ashram, his remembrances, and welcome to you, Robi.
Thank you very much.
Usually our first question is always, how did you hear about the ashram, or your parents, how did they hear about the ashram, and how did you come?
I will tell you. You know Chom?
Yes.
Chom's father was my elder brother, one of the elder brothers. His name was Chittaranjan. He had come to the ashram in 1939 or 40. He was the earliest member of our family who had come here, along with Aurobindo and a few others. My father passed away in 1941, February. And Chittaranjan, that is my elder brother, suggested that we all come to Pondicherry. And we asked for permission. Permission was given for everyone excepting me, because I was 10 years old, 1941. And in those days, children were not allowed. Then again, the family wrote back saying that, you see, it will be very difficult, they can't leave me alone in Calcutta and all that. And then permission was given and we all came here. We came on the 20th April 1941 and stayed here for about 2.5 months. That was my first visit to ashram, and that's how we came to the ashram.
In that time, were you allowed to go to darshan of Sri Aurobindo?
Darshan of Sri Aurobindo, yes, but usually we were not allowed to go for meditation. But immediately on coming here, we were told by some ashramites that everyone does some work. And we asked for work. And the work that was allotted to me was working in atelier. Atelier was where Chom sits now, you know, Pavitra's office. Mm-hmm. That was atelier. And the courtyard outside also was part of that.
But you were only 10 years old.
It doesn't matter. I was working from 7:30 to 11:30, then 1 to 5, and in the evening hours, she allotted all this work. Before the meditation took place, you know, there used to be one session in the dining hall. Dinner was served in 2 groups. Those who wanted to come before meditation and those who wanted to come after meditation. So before meditation I was in the wiping department, you know, vessels which were clean to wipe them. And after meditation my duty was, after all the food was served, there were in those days 2 big halls, one for ladies and one for men. Those were the main halls, and 2 side halls which were smaller. They were known as the latecomers' room. Some who couldn't come, you know, because of work and all that, their food used to be kept in almirahs. So my duty was, after it was all over, to remove all those stools, sweep the place and mop it. So that was my daily routine. I was 10 then, but everyone was expected to work. Everyone, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. There were very few people in the ashram. I still remember the number of my wooden sandals was 157.
Ah.
That
so all the sandals were numbered according to the...
Yes. As they arrived, you know, the numbers were put. And in those days, you couldn't visit another sadhak. You needed mother's permission to go to another sadhak and meet him. You just couldn't walk into the room of another person. And sometimes she said, no, don't go there.
I wanted to, you said that you were here only for 2.5 months.
Yes.
Then did you go back?
End of June.
Uh-huh.
End of June we went back. I had my birthday here.
11th birthday?
No, 10th birthday.
10th birthday here. I see.
No, maybe 11th if you take it. 31 I was born, and that was 1941.
Yeah. And you saw mother, of course, and she
Yes,
gave you
yes.
a gift.
She used to give bouquet and all that, and in those days it was like this. Once a week everyone had days. Once a week you could visit them and you would go up the stairs and meet the mother after meditation. So we had our days and she used to give flowers and all that. And I still remember, although I didn't know English very well, but I wanted to talk to her. And the first time I went there, she gave me one flower and I asked her, Mother, what is the significance of this flower? And she said, open your psychic center. That was the first conversation.
Oh my goodness. So you went back to Calcutta?
Yes. I went back to Calcutta, but my mother and Chom's mother, Minnie, you must be knowing Minnie.
Yes, oh yes.
They stayed back with Chom. Chom also had come. Chom was then, she was born in 39, so she must have been 2 years old. So, that was the first time I came, and we came to know of it from my brother, who had come earlier, and on whose table the pictures of Mother and Sri Aurobindo were there.
So then, when did you return to the ashram?
We returned to the ashram again in 1942. Chom's father passed away in 1942. And after that we all came again.
Did you stay then?
From then I stayed on, excepting once or twice. I mean, a few times for work I had to go and all that. Especially during Gauri's wedding. That is, Gauri is my sister. And when her wedding took place with Shunil, that took place in Calcutta. Then I had gone for 2 months, 2.5 months, that's all. Otherwise I am here only, excepting going for work.
No.
Now, after you
What
came
you-
back, you studied in the ashram?
No, that I will tell you. You see, 42 we came back, 43 was Gauri's wedding. I think in the month of March or April, I forgot. So when we went there, and we were a big family in the sense, 7 brothers, 2 sisters.
Oh.
You follow? Out of which Chittaranjan passed away in 42. Monoranjan was my eldest brother. The second brother, Niranjan, I mean, he was not against the ashram, but he was a devotee of Ramakrishna. So he wanted me to study in Ramakrishna school in Calcutta. But I wanted to come here. And he filed a case in the Calcutta court to restrain me from coming here, saying that Pondicherry is French India, he will not have proper English education, so he shouldn't come. And then, he was a lawyer himself, he was a barrister.
Mm-hmm.
So on the morning, we were very close actually, he was very fond of me. On the morning of the hearing, we had a heart-to-heart discussion. And he asked me, what about your education? Why do you want to go to Pondicherry? I countered him by saying, why do you want to stop me from coming to Pondicherry? He said, it is because of your education and because I like you to be near me. Then I told him, as far as the education is concerned, you shouldn't have any worries because Pondicherry, Kalve College and a few other schools were affiliated to the Madras University. And Madras University was in turn affiliated to London University. So there was no problem. And even the papers used to go to London for correction in those days. And then he withdrew the case and there was no hearing, nothing. We came here. Of course, later on he also has come here several times. He had come here.
And tell us of your remembrance of Sri Aurobindo when you went before him.
Sri Aurobindo was like the Himalayas. It was just like that. Totally impersonal. The mother looked at me and smiled, during darshan and all that. But Sri Aurobindo, as if he was looking, through me towards the world. And he was sitting there majestic, like the Himalayas. That was my feeling at that time. Absolutely.
And you must have had many darshans.
Oh yes, many. 41 I had one darshan. 42 I had two darshans. Then from 43 onwards I didn't miss any darshan. 43 when we came back again, that is 43, one darshan we missed, yes. I was in Calcutta for Gauri's wedding. Otherwise I didn't miss any darshan.
Did you study here in the ashram?
No. So the undertaking I had given was that I will study in the outside school, appear from the Madras University, and then pursue my studies. And also at that time, the ashram school had not started yet. See, the ashram school began on 2nd December 1943. You follow? The day we moved into this house, 2nd December 1943. And the gymnasium next door was the school building was there. In fact, if I tell you how the school started, it's a very funny story.
Please do.
See, initially children were not allowed in the ashram. But because of the war which had taken place, which was going on at that time, mother gave permission to so many families to bring their children here. And we were all there, you know. And you certainly know about the darshans. First was morning balcony darshan, then window darshan. For a moment she would open the window, you know, of a salon.
Yes.
And people would stand down. And then the terrace darshan. Now during terrace darshan, we were kids and we used to play marble, hopscotch and all that. It was very noisy. So mother said that we will open a school. The school will be only in the morning so that there is no noise during darshan. That is how the whole thing began. And she asked Chandalal, you know Chandalal, Vasudha's elder brother, who was the engineer in Golconda also, to design a few benches, what the desks will be like and all that. And Chandalal brought those desks and all that, put it on the courtyard near the terrace, you know, which is covered now. You know the terrace, you must have seen some old pictures, circular thing. Mother came and saw, and I still remember she asked us to sit and say how there and this and that. And I still remember I joked with her, saying that mother, this is very good for studying, but this one is good for relaxing. But I could not join the ashram school because I had to join Kalve College. Also in 43 I joined Kalve College because I had to do it. Only during my holidays there I used to come and join the ashram school, which was just next door.
But you were given work by mother.
Yes, yes.
And
even while I was studying in Kalve College, at that time my work was laundry. 4:30 in the morning I had to go to the laundry. Pranav, Biren, they were all working there. I had to wash clothes. During the holidays, even iron clothes in the afternoon. Otherwise, during the school session, I couldn't. And I would have my breakfast there, bath, breakfast there, you know. The bakery was just by the side. And go directly from there to Kalve College. So that's how it was.
When did you complete your studies? How many years?
I completed my studies in 1947. I appeared for my exam, matriculation. You could do only up to matriculation here. And I did fairly well. I stood 5th in the Madras University. And then I received some offers of scholarships. And one of them was from the London School of, it was construction, you know, structural engineering and all that. But in those days, you know, we couldn't think of going outside. But I was one class higher than the highest class in the Center of Education. It was not called Center of Education then, it was called Ashram School. So I couldn't join there. One day I went and told mother, I thought I'll ask her, I've got this scholarship, should I go or not? So I went and told her, mother, now that I've passed my exam, and I am already one class higher than what they are teaching here. So should I go outside and study? Before I could tell her anything, she caught my hand like this, looked into my eyes and said, so, you want to be a learned fool? If you want information, go to the library. If you want education, learn to live in the ashram. Finished. And she said, from this afternoon you go and work in the press.
Oh, that's when. Now, how old were you then?
I was 16.
16.
So I went to the press, worked in the press for about a year. Yes, 47, 48, maybe a year and a half. Then you must have known Chiman Bhai, isn't it? Photographer.
Oh, yes.
His brother Jant was a good friend of mine. He asked me, why don't you learn photography? Because Chiman was a professional photographer in Baroda. And he had just started a photographic department here, and mother gave the name of photo service. The department was known as photo service. So one day I went and asked mother, may I learn photography? If you give permission, I would like to do that. She asked me, are you serious? I said, I will try to be serious. And she told me, if you're serious, I'll take you there. And then she said, once I start taking pictures, every week or fortnight I was to bring my pictures to her. She will see them, tell them what is right, what is wrong, how composition should be and all these things. He said, sometimes she'll say, no, this is not the right subject for photography, it is suitable for painting. It requires strokes. I remember I had taken, one stem of rice like that. So this is not the subject for photography. This is painting, it depends on your strokes. And composition, everything she taught me. I mean, whatever I have learnt about photography and art.
All from her.
Absolutely.
Now, you were telling me that she wanted you to take photos of the older ashramites.
Yes. And she gave names also. I still remember Nalini, Amrita, Pavitra, Purani, and who else? Some others.
Ambu.
Ambu had taken pictures because I was very friendly with Ambu. But she had not named Ambu.
So what happened?
I told you with Nalini.
Yeah,
I had an appointment with Nalini. I went with my tripod, camera and all that. And Nalini wasn't well. So I left my tripod in his room and he gave a time for the next week. I went there, some visitor had come from Calcutta and it could not be done. Then third time again something happened. I think mother sent him someplace, I don't remember what. It couldn't be taken. And the project stopped there. I did not continue anymore.
Can you share what are the guidelines you gave for composition, what is right, what is wrong?
I'll tell you one thing. We held an international exhibition here
Right.
from 1955 till more than 25 consecutive years. It was, now, before that, we wanted to do it in an organized way. And we said, we'll form a photographic club-like thing here. You give it a name. And she gave the name of Ashram Photography. And under that name, we used to hold exhibitions all like that. But before that, I used to participate in national and competitions and international competitions. So in one of the national competitions, I got a second award. And somebody else had got a first award. All those pictures came here. Mother was very fond of looking at photographs. And then she looked at them and said, do you know why you have got the second award and not the first award? I asked her why. She says, your composition is a classic composition. the time for that is over. Today, it is balanced by tension. See, there is a feeling of movement. Something is going here and something else is balancing. And she also said that, you see, art must reflect the times we live in. And she says photography is especially the medium for it. She was very much interested in photography. So much so that, when the Federation of Indian Photography was formed, they had appointed me the chairman of its publication department. And for the convention of the Federation of Indian Photography, she gave a message, beautifully written. Photography is an art when the photographer is an artist. And that they displayed very prominently. Even during the exhibition, every day I had to take up the packets that came, It used to come for over a period of 2.5 to 3 months. I'll take it up. She said, you must save the stamps because they are coming from different states. She saw how to cut the stamps, with a blade. You cut it, then I'll open the packet there and she will go through every picture. In the earlier days, every picture, it used to take about an hour every day. And I saw one thing, she was very fond of pictures of monkeys. One day I asked her, Mother, you are so fond of monkeys? Why didn't you create the ashram with monkeys instead of men? She said, no, it's not like that. So the brain of the monkeys is in a developing stage and you can see the strain, the effort at evolution. And that is why I always like to see monkeys, and their pictures. That is the thing.
So you grew and grew in your capacity for photography.
No, I had no artistic inclination whatsoever. Nothing. Whatever I have learned, not only that, even my equipment and all that she provided me with.
You have those still equipments given by the mother?
The enlarger, yes. Enlargers are still there. The camera, one camera is still there. The tripod is stolen. The floodlamps are there, John has just borrowed them. And she used to provide every year with materials for the whole year. Photographic paper, roll films, everything. Only she made one condition. Don't do photography for money. So I never did. This is, if you win a prize, then it's all right. That's a different thing. But don't get into commercial photography.
Can you name the few photographers of your time in the ashram? Who were the photographers of your time in the ashram?
See, Chiman was there. Vidyavrat was already doing. Venkatesh and myself. We were only 4.
And what kind of photography you used to do, which you loved most?
I was very fond of portraiture. Is
there any special
this was my
comments?
studio, it is completely reconstructed. My studio was here and the dark room was there. And mother came walking from the playground, saw the studio, saw the dark room where a print of Sri Aurobindo was being washed and all that, And I don't have the paper now. She wrote on a piece of paper, oh, it is chic, the studio.
Did Chimanbai teach you darkroom work?
Yes. Chimanbai was technically very good. Technically. But artistically he was not so. I worked with Chimanbai till mid-1951. Then mother asked me to set up my own. She had a reason and she explained to Chimanbai also why it is so. And it was a shock to me because Chiman and I, we were very close friends. He had taught me everything. And she asked Chiman to go to Madras and buy the equipment for me. So,
But he understood?
In the beginning it was a little difficult, but then finally he did understand.
I would like to go back to 1950 when Sri Aurobindo left his body.
1950. Well, you see, 1950, as Dr. Sen, Satyavrat Sen, was very friendly with me. And I knew that Sri Aurobindo was not well at all. In the evenings, we used to often go to the seashore and he will tell me that Sri Aurobindo wasn't well and all that. So, 5th December, midnight, Chiman came and called me from here. You see, I was working with Chiman. Vidyavrat and Venkatesh worked independently. Pranav went and informed Chiman, Vidyavrat and Venkatesh. Chiman came and called me. So we took our cameras and some floodlights and flash lamps and rushed to the ashram. We entered through the meditation room gate, went up. And as you go to Sri Aurobindo's room, the room adjacent to that, mother was sitting there on a chair, and you will not believe the power that was there, like Mahakali. She was sitting there and meditating. Just the room adjacent to Sri Aurobindo's room. We went in, actually we were in a kind of a daze to just some record shots and things like that we were taking. We couldn't think of anything else. And a few people were seated on the ground, Dr. Sanyal, Niruddha, and some others, I forget, Champaklal. We shot the pictures, came back to Chiman's dark room here, developed, and we started making prints. The mother's instructions were as soon as the prints are made to take them up to her. So every day as I was making prints, I used to go up also. Chiman wouldn't go because he used to smoke, and he didn't want to go because that smell will be there. And every day he would say something, she would say something. I still remember at that time there was a talk whether people will accept the mother or not. And the mother was sitting there, surrounded by Nalini, Amrita. And one day mother said, if they do not want me here, I'll go back to France. And Amrita immediately said, Mother, if you are going to France, please buy one ticket for me also. But those were all rumors. There was a rumor in the ashram that people may not accept her. It was all rumor. Nothing happened. And Sri Aurobindo came to me and gave me the assurance that he will see that his work is completed. At that time only these Kartiya Prasad's negatives, she insisted that they be purchased immediately. And Mrs. Montgomery, who was in the States at that time, she was working with Vogue.
I knew her very well, yes.
She arranged a lot of things along with Tata, when Tatachari was there. So together they managed to get the negatives.
You knew Kartiya personally?
Yes, you see, it happened like this. I was in Chiman's studio, we were sitting having tea. When the director of the Lycée Français at that time was one Mr. Walter something. He was very friendly with us because he was very much interested in photography. He brought in Kartiya Prasad there and introduced him. Frankly, we didn't know who Kartiya Prasad was. We didn't know that he was a famous photographer and all that. He was putting him at Magri's Grand Hotel. He was putting him there and introduced and all that. And Kartiya Prasad said he was already in touch with Pavitra. He was already in correspondence with him. But he didn't know anything about the ashram and all that. So he asked us to help him in going to the ashram and all. So finally he met Pavitra and then he shifted from there to Golconda. He shifted from there. And he had brought one book, a thin book, printed in France. His Decisive Moment had not yet been published. I forget, it was a French title. Image a la Soviet or something like that. That book was sent to mother. Mother liked the pictures and gave him permission to shoot ashram departments.
Oh.
And also permitted him to take her pictures. Vegetable darshan, that was known as vegetable darshan, used to take place by the side of Nira's room, that staircase. She will come there, throw tomatoes and all that. And what is the bulletin office now? Suddhananda Bharati used to live there. He was known as Radhanand. He will be there, many others, and mother will throw tomatoes and you have to catch and all that. That time you see the picture there, on this side. That was taken there.
Mother would actually throw tomatoes to you?
Yes. No, this side there is no picture of
Show
mother.
him this picture.
Oh, I have taken it upstairs then. You will see there. I have got the album, Kartibas's album.
Yeah. So then he came to...
Then, when mother gave him permission, he didn't know the departments and all that. So he wanted somebody to take him to places and I offered my services. So for the first 7 or 8 days I used to go with him to the departments. And then he was on his own. After that, he wanted to take pictures of Sri Aurobindo. And he asked mother about it. Oh, before that I'll tell you. You see, the lighting here is very bright and contrasty. And he was a photojournalist who sent his films to France. And it was processed by one Pierre Gassman at that time. They had already formed the Magnum agency. There were 5 photographers. Bischoff, Ernest Haas, Cartier Bresson, then, no, I forget the name. Eugene Smith.
Oh, I see.
Yes, he was part of that.
Because I'm familiar with Haas and Smith,
Yeah.
very familiar.
His Spanish story and all that, fantastic. And another one was there. Robert Capa was there. And Capa was a
Capra
manager.
was the war.
Huh?
Did you say Capra?
Capa.
Oh, Capac, I don't know.
He was a war photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So he said he always made straight prints without any extra exposure or anything because the prints were made there. So he wanted his negatives to be soft so that you get tones in the sky. And he didn't believe in flash, although he did have to take a few pictures in flash. So he says, I am going to expose one roll, you please develop it here, I want to see the results. We did that here, in which he took one flash picture, You'll see in that album there's only one flash picture, mother giving blessings to a girl. You've seen the album
Yes,
or not?
yes, I know that picture. Yes.
We developed that.
You can show later, you can have to.
So what did he say when they were developed?
He was happy with the result. But it's very surprising, he didn't know much darkroom work, He didn't know. He used to do, he was a painter who had taken to photograph and he was using a big camera before, studio camera. And he used to process big plates and maybe he had someone do it and contact it. Enlarging and all that at that time he didn't know very much. He had not done himself. It is the laboratory who processed his things. So when he wanted to take pictures of Sri Aurobindo, mother asked Sri Aurobindo. And then mother sent back word saying that Sri Aurobindo will see him during darshan and if he gives permission, then at the end of the darshan he can take pictures. And I remember, that was April, I think, 1950. We were all standing near Bulada's room, that staircase is there, just adjacent to that. Myself, Chiman and Karthibasam were standing. Chiman had a unipod, this single thing. And in those days, the films were very slow. Super double is the film he was using for shooting interiors was 100 ASC.
I see.
That was the fastest film.
That was the fastest.
So we were waiting. Then somebody came running. I think it was Bansidhar, I've forgotten. It was not Champakla. And says that Sriamda has given permission. He should come up towards the end and take pictures. But no flash, no extra lighting. And the light was just 30-watt bulb, with those films. So myself, Chiman and Kathirusu, we went up. I was standing by his side when he took those pictures. And you see there's a little movement, shake and all that in those pictures. Now in those days, when you went to Sri Amda for darshan, there was a big box-like thing in front of them. 2 compartments. One for offerings, the other for garlands. People put garlands. A lot of garlands used to come. And the day next to darshan, Mother distributed those garlands in the morning to all the sadhus, all the members of the ashram. Katyabas also went there. And he told Mother, I'm very sorry. I'm quite well known in Europe. And if they see these pictures of Sri Amda, they'll say, what kind of photos you have taken? Because the light was so poor, I couldn't do anything. So if you can give me a special session with Sri Aurobindo. Mother asked Sri Aurobindo gave permission. And I think it was the next day, 24th April, 26th April very likely. He was asked to come at 9:30 in the morning to Sri Aurobindo. Again, Chiman, myself and Kathimasa went and sat on the staircase. Champaklal came and called him. He went in. He was there hardly for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. That time he had brought a tripod in, we had given him a tripod and he shot pictures with me. When he came out, he was absolutely speechless. And after a little while he says, I have never seen a personality like that. And after some time, after he left, Champaklal came out and said that after the whole thing was over, he said he was obviously very, very nervous. Sri Aurobindo was still absolutely sitting there. And after he finished the shoot and came out, Sri Aurobindo said, it's all over, and gave a beatific smile.
What was the speed of the lenses in those days?
He had a good lens, he could get, his lens was, he was using at that time 1.9, good lenses were available. Glass lenses or good lenses, he was using a Leica. But remember in those days, even the rangefinder and viewfinder were not combined, they were separate things. So if you had to focus first with the rangefinder and then see through the viewfinder. And Katyamrasa was shooting mainly by setting the distance on his lens, wherever he did quick shooting. Because it was not possible to focus and then do quick shooting like that. But the pictures of Sri Aurobindo he took are very nice. Very nice.
So you had any discussion of photography with him?
No, I did not know that he was a famous photographer. But only one thing, See, one moment he's sitting with us chatting, next moment you don't see him, he's shooting pictures. You don't even know when he has gone up. Especially balcony darshan time, he has shot pictures. We were sitting together on the footpath and then suddenly he goes up and unnoticed completely.
So you had no opportunity to show your work?
No. At that time I just started photography. Very little I had done.
Have you taken mother's photos like balcony or terrace darshan or mother?
Balcony I have taken them blessings, she used to give puja blessings and all that. Many pictures I have taken.
Many have taken.
No, they are all in the archives now. In fact, the first time, Mother gave us permission, ashram photographers permission to shoot her pictures, one of the puja blessings. And we all took pictures and Mother selected, I think, 10 pictures from each of us to make an album, Several albums were made. I'll show you that album, I have got it here. The pictures that I had taken, first days, from where she had chosen. I have taken.
Did she make any comments on your photos of the mother?
She would select.
I
In
heard-
fact, when the other darshan came here, the new balcony, he told me that I didn't see you. Where were you? So I told her, Mother, I don't have a long focus lens, and from that distance to take your picture is very difficult. And besides, I was then working in the press already. Again, I had to go back to the press. I had to go from time to time, not regularly. So she says, if you want a lens, I'll give you a lens. And no, Mother, it's not necessary. Because it was crowded, So many photographers were taking pictures there. But I'll show you that album, That album must be 50, 60 years old.
We had heard that Mother would make 3 piles. One was to give out to others. The last one was rejects that she didn't want anyone to see.
No, she would say, as you took the picture, don't show it to anyone.
Ah.
So don't print any more of that. But and then she'll ask for copies. You give me 12 copies of this, I have to distribute. You give me 20 copies of that. It was like that.
Tell us a little about your work in the press. Because we've only heard the most wonderful things about your work in the
Oh,
press.
no, those are exaggerated reports. See, it's like that. While I was the chairman of the publications department of Federation of Indian Photography, Mother encouraged me very much to take up that job. And I had to curate collections. About 4 or 5 volumes we brought out. First was contemporary Indian photography, Asian photography, then was simple Indian photography, then Asian photography volume. About 5 or 6 volumes totally I did. I don't have any copies with me anymore. But she encouraged me and I had to go to Calcutta to get them printed. Because at that time the Ashram Press didn't have good equipment. So I had to go to Calcutta and I had gained quite a lot of experience in printing while I was there in Calcutta. In those days it was all letterpress. Offset hadn't yet caught up, Offset technology was still quite backward. It developed very fast after that. And Calcutta was the best place for letterpress photography, printing. And that's how I gained experience in printing. And even sometimes to print some pictures and all that, if it had to be taken to Calcutta, Mother would give it to me while I was going to get it printed there. I still remember on one occasion, 2 pictures were to be published, Mother and Sri Aurobindo. But the composition of the pictures was such, I felt Sri Aurobindo on the left hand side and Mother on the right hand side would look better. So I told Mother, and Mother, I would prefer it like that, but everyone tells me that it shouldn't be. What should I do? She said, there is absolutely nothing, you print it like that. It just happened I used to sit on his right. And we printed the picture like that. Mother on the right hand side and Sri on the left hand side. You see, many myths are there. For example, the center of education books. They are of an odd format, very squarish and all that. There used to be a British size called imperial size paper, 22 inches by 30 inches. Now at the press they must have had that paper. And the initial, they used to call it University Series. At that time it was not Center of Education, it was the International University Center. It was that printed of that size. And then that size paper was not available when I had again gone to the press. I'll tell you how I went to the press. So I made 2 dummies, mock-ups. One in the size it was available and one in the size which was printed originally. I just took it up to her and said, Mother, which size would you prefer for the Center of Education series? And she selected the new size. Then I said, but I'm told that you had selected this size and you don't want anything else. She said, no, it is not like that. They must have come and shown me that this is the paper available, can we print in this size? And I said, okay. Many things like that, You see, we say mother has said it is not like that really. Now, how I went to the press is like this. Manoj's father at that time, I think it was the year 61, he was the manager at that time. You know how the press started, you obviously know about it. It was started under the guidance of one Mr. Pillai. He was the manager of the Hyderabad government press. He was a very experienced man. And that was the press layout and all that he had done was very correctly done with proper workflow and all that. Anyhow, he went away than somebody else and Naran Dasgupta, Manoj's father, was the manager. And a Heidelberg cylinder printing machine was ordered in 1961. I had gone to Calcutta to produce one of the books as usual. Every year I was going to produce a book. And then I received a letter from Jayantila saying that this new machine is coming, no one knows how to operate it. Can you get 2 operators from Calcutta who will be working on that machine? It so happened I was getting my book printed on a Heidelberg machine. So I scouted around Calcutta and I knew the printing presses very well in Calcutta in those days. And we selected 2. They were not top printers, but they knew how to operate the machine and all that. I brought them here. After installation of the machine, the press was on the sea front. And even though the bed of the machine was stainless steel, you apply a lot of Vaseline, grease and all that on Saturday. Monday morning there are tiny dots of rust. Now, the printer I had brought from Calcutta Monday morning, before taking the trials, there were already rust bits. And with a fine emery paper, he was just removing those rust spots. Now, Udar didn't know anything about printing. He got very nervous. He went and told mother, it's a German machine, beautifully manufactured machine, and they are winning it with sandpaper, and he didn't really understand. I was not as mischief, but he went and told mother. Mother sent Juman to me, called Robi, as I had got the men and all that. He told me, you go immediately to the press and see whether they're doing things properly or not, or is it really being ruined by those 2 workers that we have brought. I went and saw, there was nothing at all, that is the standard procedure because in Calcutta also I had seen the same thing. Then I went and told mother that, no, it's a very minor thing, it's just like that. Nothing has happened and nothing will happen. And they are fairly experienced, they will not ruin the machine, they know how to handle the machine properly. Then she asked me, that can you look after the printing on that machine for a few months? I'll be coming to the press shortly. Until then you look after that machine. You take charge of that machine and see that the printing is going on properly. Then when the mother visited the press, we were doing one color printing, Huta's picture, one picture of Huta's, and she stood and saw that. And she liked it very much. And then so many things, when you clean the rollers, you put paper inside, it makes very abstract patterns and all that. We had kept some to show mother. Those pictures are still here in this house. Mother seeing the thing. Then there in front of everyone she told me that I will be very happy if you devote at least half a day to the printing here and look after the ashram press. I'll be very happy. Not look after the printing section of the ashram press. I couldn't say no there in front of so many people. And I was doing all the photographs for sale, printing, I was to do here at that time. And I was doing my own photography also. So next day I went and told mother, but what happens to photography? because we were holding the international exhibition. She just said this thing. The printing press, it is work for the whole ashram. Your photography is partly your personal work and partly ashram work. I would like you to go to the press. And that's how I started going to the press. That was in 61.
And you continued?
Then I continued for quite long. Till, that is my interpretation, I can be entirely wrong. Till I found that, you see, I was trampling on the ambitions of some others. And I gradually withdrew from active printing. And I concentrated on setting up a block making section here. Got the camera manufactured because we didn't have the funds. With the camera manufactured and then set up a block making department, and so I used to go only for the block making. And that department was shifted to this house, what is the name of the house, where paper stores were there, and Nalini Sharkar used to live in that house before. You remember? You don't know probably. Anyhow.
Aurobindo house.
Huh?
Aurobindo house.
Maybe Columbani house. There, that side.
Yes.
That's the place. The department was first set up there. Then that had to be given away, shifted to the house next to the press, which is where Gunther used to stay in the front room. Finally, Arvind also stayed there, and back we had the camera section and all that, dark room, color separation, everything. In the meanwhile, while I was doing that, and some Italian from Mandadori, one color separator had come here. He came to the press and we became good friends. He showed me how to do color separation work.
This was the first time that color separation was done?
In ashram, yes.
I see.
Then in 1969, yes, Andre called me to go. And personal things are coming. Should I say? Is it?
Yes, it's wonderful.
I may tell you for the story.
That's fine.
But please see, I don't like to say these things.
Exactly.
Anyhow, there was some. Andre told me mother is very unhappy about the preparation of the centenary edition. Machines were ordered without her permission. She was very angry. And she wanted me to go through all the correspondence and how the machines were ordered and things like that. So I actually again started going to I was going to the press building, but I was not looking after the printing as then. I went through all that. I gave a full, complete report. Then she asked me whether I will accept looking after the centenary editions. That's how I got involved again. From the centenary edition stamp. And she said, you supervise the centenary editions. I understood it to mean you stay there as long as the centenary editions take place. And that is how I was there. After that, mother's own work started, Her collected works. She was very much against it. She was very much against it. He says, I don't want it. Sri Aurobindo, whatever he has written, is for the whole world, it was universal. What I have written pertained entirely to the individual I had written it to. The same day, two teachers have put me the same questions and I have given different answers. They are for the person concerned at his stage of progress. It was not universal at all. And she made it very clear, if you publish it, people will take it as universal teaching and there will be a lot of conflict, but nobody listened and it was finally published. She said, don't write centenary volume or anything, it was said as collected works of the mother. She was absolutely against it. She says, what is this? Something I have translated from English, even that is going as my collected works. She didn't believe in this. She says, my answers were always directed to the individual. They were not universal. Whereas Sri Aurobido's answers, they were universals, and she didn't allow the questions to be printed. She says, because the questions were often irrelevant. Sri Aurobindo wanted to say something and he said it. That's why in the correspondence with the letters of Sri Aurobindo, she did not allow the questions to be printed. She did not. She said, it is not for the questions, it is the answers. He wanted to say those things, he took the opportunity of saying. Andre very much wanted the questions to be put there, she refused. Then also we asked her, what about the manuscript? I mean, what about the typescript and all that version? There were some conflicts and all that. Mother said, exactly as the things were published during Sri Aurobido's time, nothing to be changed. Not even a change in capitalization and all that. Amal wanted to change something, Mother said no. She said exactly as it was printed, not one comma, not one capital.
I remember that, yes.
Yes.
Not even a comma should
Not
be
even
changed.
a comma should be changed.
Yes. So exactly as it was when he wrote.
And the things that were published afterwards, whatever the editions were published from the ashram, that should remain. Because about Savitri there were some questions asked. She said, no, exactly as it was published. There shouldn't be spelling mistakes. If there are spelling mistakes, you obviously correct them.
And typos.
Typos, naturally. So that is how the whole thing was done.
So you had so many opportunities to see Mother.
I did have. Not after she retired, because then it was entirely through Andre. Every week I used to have a meeting with Andre. And everything was through Andre afterwards. Excepting in early 73, she called all the department heads upstairs, and there she gave them darshan and all that. It was really the last 2 years she had withdrawn completely. And it was totally an indication of how the ashram should run. It was totally an indication of that. You see, she gave charge to the department heads and the ashram ran beautifully. It is as if she was preparing, And she called all the department heads, gave them blessings. That was a clear indication of how it should run.
Did you take part in sports?
Me? See, as I was a photographer, athletics and all that I didn't take part, but in tennis, table tennis, I did take part. In fact, I was fairly good in tennis and table tennis. I was ashram champion in table tennis. Then we used to have tennis matches with the outside clubs, And Mother was very particular. In fact, I became champion of Pondicherry also in tennis 1 year. Konop was the best player, really. That is my elder brother. He was very good. And
You say Mother was very particular.
see, before we would go to play there, Mother used to go to the tennis ground. In the garage, we have to meet her there. And she would tell us, ashram's prestige is at stake. You have to be extremely conscious when you play. So she was very particular, very, very particular. Once I asked her, that you see, we are playing so much tennis. She was very fond of tennis, I'm playing so many hours of tennis. What about my yoga? She says, when you are playing tennis, that is your yoga. You play consciously. And once she told me that I see the consciousness coming up to this, it must come here.
Did you play tennis with the mother or table tennis?
Yes.
You played. Table tennis
Plenty.
also.
Table tennis also.
But the other day I saw some tennis racket, this table tennis racket, balls displayed in Sri Smriti.
What did you see?
Sri Smriti.
Oh,
Yeah.
how table tennis started? You see, in our house in Calcutta, we had a table tennis table and we used to play there. And here at that time there were not many games and all that. So in our home here, we used to play table tennis on a small table. Omio asked mother, "Mother, if we can get a table tennis table made, we can play table tennis." Mother asked Uda to make the table. And she placed it in the Nantai, first room, not the inside room. The table was put there and for the opening, mother came to see. We all played table tennis, the mother liked it and then she started coming herself. She used to play regularly. And you will not believe it, we had never seen table tennis outside. And mother wanted to see what good table tennis is. And the India champion was residing then in Chennai. His name was Shivaraman. Doubles champion, his partner also was there, Pancham Kesar. So they were invited to come and demonstrate here. So we went to the station, Udar corresponded with them and then we went to the station to receive them in the morning, brought them here, played and mother came to see. And what happened? First was the doubles match, myself and Kanak, we beat the India champions. Then Kanak beat the India champion again. I mean the standard, we never knew that the standard was like that. And then they said that just come and play the India championship and then, but that never happened.
Robi, I want to go into many other things with you, but are you tired or are you all right? We can do another one another day if you like.
No, for another half an hour I think.
All right, fine. I like to always ask questions about those you knew in the early days. And you had told me one story about Gampatram. Perhaps you could relate that story of Gampatram.
See, Ganpatram I knew, and I told you that story.
Yeah, please tell us.
See, we used to go to Mother just before terrace darshan. At that time, everybody used to go every day almost. And Ganpatram was just ahead of me. He asked Mother, his friend was living in Switzerland, he wanted to come and settle down in the ashram. Mother said, okay, he can come and settle down here. In those days, it wasn't easy to get permission. Ganpatram was coming down and I was about to get in when Ganpatram went back again. Mother, I forgot to tell you, this friend is very serious. He meditates 16 hours a day. But then don't ask him not to come here. This is not the place for sitting and meditating. This is the place for work. Ask him to go to the Himalayas. And actually, he was not allowed to come. He was asked to go to the Himalayas.
When those who wanted peace, mother said, put Ramanama Ashram. It's a place of work.
And your memories of Nolini?
I was not very close to Nalini really. There was always a distance between me and Nalini. I was very close to Amritala.
Oh.
Very close.
Can you share any remembrances with him?
No, it was very nice. I mean, some remembrances when he was not well. For example, he would come to the playground. He had high pressure. And then one day I found him going round and round. So I asked him, I happened to be there and I brought him home. He said, I'm very thirsty, I'm very thirsty. We had a fridge given by the mother, that fridge is still there. So I gave him some cold water and all that. He was very happy and he said, every evening I'll come here, and he used to come here every evening to have a glass of water. He was a wonderful man. I remember. See, as he said, then buy a ticket for me also to go to France. Similarly, Mother was sitting there, I wasn't present, and Amrita, Nalini, they were all sitting here. Mother asked them, do you know how far is mankind from divinity? Amrita got up, he took 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 steps, and it was 7 steps, Mother. He was very humorous, you know. Wonderful man.
Did you know Pavitra
Yes,
well?
fairly well, yes, very well. In fact, very well.
We have many questions about education, but I think that wasn't your area so much, or did you teach?
No, I never taught. I never taught. Because I never learned. So, as I said, Mother told me, you want to be a educated fool? Learned fool, not educated. Learned fool. And she said, if you want true education, learn to live in the ashram.
And Purani?
Purani, I knew very well. I used to go to his room every day. Purani is very strange, you know. I'll tell you one incident. When the playground started, first in charge was Purani. And I was very mischievous. At that time I hadn't joined the school and all that. And I remember he chased me out of the playground and shut the door. I was here and we all wore khadams, you know, those wooden sandals in those days. After some time, I went and hit the door with that khadam, big noise. So Purani came and opened the door, and before he knew anything, I hit him with the khadam. I was very happy. And he started chasing me. We were running around this block. But I was very friendly afterwards, I think. Very, very friendly.
Ambu you must have known
Yes,
also.
yes. At one point I used to have dinner with him every evening, at one point. So that continued for about 2 years. You see, myself, Jayantilal, Krishnalal, and then joined Anurakta. He also used to have later on.
We will meet Anurakta this week for an interview.
Anurakta is still active.
Quite clear, quite clear. So, what about Parichand and Jyotinda?
Jyotinda was a very interesting character. You're talking of gardener Jyotinda? Gardener, isn't it?
Yes.
There were 2 Jyotindas. One was laundry.
No,
and baker.
I knew Gardner.
Gardener. He was a very interesting man. But there used to be a lot of jealousy in those days, you know. Some were in charge of this garden, some were in charge of that. And plucking flowers, in those days there were special flowers, you know, during the war. There were special flowers like transformation, patience and a few things. And you had to count the number of flowers you were giving to mother and give her.
Patience was one also?
Yes, yes. Aspiration, patience, transformation, divine love. There were quite a number of flowers. In the early morning you used to get up and collect these flowers and take them, count them and then take them to mother. There were many funny incidents used to take place. In this guest house, there was a tree which Jyotinda was supposed to look after. And there was another Biranda. I don't know if you have heard about him. He was also working in the garden section. Jyotinda used to always walk with his stick. And Biranda had climbed up the tree and he was plucking something from there. Jyotinda came and saw him. With his stick, you know, that handle, he caught hold of his dhoti and pulled it. You know, things like that was quite commonplace. But afterwards it became normal, you know. Parichand was really He was a very learned man, Parichanda, Rishabh Chanda, very nice. I remember in 42, Rishabh Chand, 41, Rishabh Chand used to take us out for a walk every evening along the park. And he will teach us Sanskrit slokas and all that in 1941.
And of course, yes, tell us more about that.
A very serious person, but very rigid also. He was in charge of the furniture section. Very rigid, I mean, as far as the furniture was concerned. But he was a man of great depth, great depth. Whereas Parichand was a very friendly type. And he really wanted to learn about gardening and all that. He would read up books. They were brothers, as you know.
Yeah.
And they had another brother, cousin, Umit Chand, Sumantra's father. So, actually the development of garden service is very much due to Parichand. Very much. You see Chantal house, which is locked and closed now, that was the nursery behind the post office. That was like the nursery, And Kokotia, where Parichanda lived, where Pranab lived afterwards. These two were the main places where things grew. And even in those days, things were made in pots and displayed in the ashram during darshan and during terrace darshan and others. They used to keep changing constantly. Flower was a language right from the word go. And there was so much flower. The flower room was where the samadhi is there now. Just in front it was a circular thing when I have seen it. Before that I am told it was a kitchen or something like that. As a matter of fact, when I came as a 10-year-old, my entire feeling was that as if I was walking on flowers. It was exactly like that.
And what was the ashram atmosphere in those days?
Fantastic. It was quite different. It was not crowded. The thing was intense, and as a child, I felt it deeply. In fact, I wanted to stay on at that age only. But naturally they wouldn't allow, not mother, we couldn't ask mother, but my parents wouldn't allow me, and so I had to go back. Otherwise I went to stay on. But in 42 when I came, myself and Gauri, we stayed on, the others went back. We stayed on. From that time I am here. At that time the feeling was intense. And really, it was a new world altogether. And as I told you, when I asked mother about this meaning of the flower, she said, open your psychic center. And she remembered it. In 65 she reminded me about it. 65 or 66. See, that time suddenly, I started feeling empty, absolutely empty, as if nothing was there. I lost interest in everything. I had to go sit down in the ashram, that parapet is there, near as you go to the samadhi. I had to spend a lot of time there. I was there most of the time. And I lost interest in everything. And that year when I went to mother for my birthday, she told me, this year you have made maximum progress. So I told her about this feeling of mine. And she said, that is an experience you have to go through. And then she told me that you see, when you came first, your Saki goes in the front.
Who are the other senior sadhaks whom you most remember and want to share something?
Perhaps Champaklam.
Champaklam was very fond of me. Very fond of me, because he was himself an artist, He used to do creative things and all that. And he was much interested in photography. He also used to come in, when I used to show the pictures to mother,
Oh,
he would often come there.
And Andreza, you knew him well?
I knew him in the sense that, every week I had to meet him. In fact, he taught us many things about organization and all that, about programming, tracking how the work was progressing and all those things. Because the centenary edition had to be completed within a short span of time. See, even when I rejoined the press, so to say, in 69, 72 was the centenary and books had to be completed. You know Kalu. Kalu's wedding was to take place in Singapore. And Gama, Kalu's elder brother, who was my friend, he wanted to go to Singapore and he was pressing me to go to Singapore. So we asked mother. I asked through Andre because centenary was coming and all that. And mother says, yes, you asked him to go. And before going, I saw the mother. And she encouraged me very much to go to Singapore. I could not understand why. In fact, it was a mystery to me. When I went there, I became very friendly with the manager of Kodak, Singapore. He was an Indonesian. And there was a course on color separation to be taken there. Experts were coming from Belgium, England and other places. And we became so friendly, he even preponed the classes by 2 or 3 days because my ticket was booked. And I took an entire course in color separation there. Then I understood maybe this is why mother wanted me to go. The marriage was just an excuse.
So tell something about this salon photography, how it started, who were the judges, did mother also select the works?
So that salon started in 1955. Before that, Pondicherry was French India, 54 till 54, and we couldn't get things, customs problems were there and all that. So when I told mother, how about holding an international exhibition here, she was very happy. And to hold an exhibition, you had to follow, the practices of the Photographic Society of America. And through the Federation of Indian Photography, of which I was the chairman of one division, we got all the practices, it was approved, and we got good entries and all that. Wilfie was made the salon chairman. And we were 3 judges, and we selected some pictures. Mother used to see all the pictures that were coming in. And after the selection was made, she said she would go through all the pictures. Now the award was given, one award was given to a child study. It was a very well-known picture and a beautiful child study by our standards. And when we took up the pictures and told mother, this picture has got an award, she got absolutely angry. I will cancel the exhibition. So I asked why. This child does not have a psychic. I will not even keep him in the ashram. Then I asked her, but now what to do? We have already informed him that he has got an award and all that. And mother said, send him the award, but don't exhibit the picture. And the picture was not exhibited. I asked her, how the hell do we know whether a child has a psychic or not? And some things we know.
So you used to visit all the exhibitions, photography exhibition.
Till she retired upstairs. She used to see every print. Then Pranab used to take up the prints upstairs, 61 or 61 end I think she retired. She used to see. Until her eyesight became very weak, then she used to see only the selected pictures. She was very much interested.
Any other comments like that she made regarding some photos?
Yes, you know, we used to have portfolios. An American photographer who had taken color pictures, very bright colors and all that, total abstraction. She liked them very much. She says the brightness of the colors and the intensity of the colors is wonderful. In painting we cannot achieve it. And she made 3 sketches. She said, I want you to take pictures, you know, and she said what it signifies and all that, to be taken in color. But in those days, you know, in India, color films were very limited. So nothing could be done. I couldn't do it. And strangely, those papers have become almost white today. You know, the images are gone.
Yeah, the inks were not so permanent.
See, that I remember, even once Sriyamda left his body. I mean, the room was like a solid gold. You will not believe what it was. If you could see through solid gold, we were seeing Sriyamda through solid gold. And mother wanted that picture to be taken in color. And Jayant was sent specifically to Madras to get color films. We couldn't get any. She wanted to see if it is registered on film or not. We couldn't get the film.
But you saw it golden.
Absolutely, not only me,
Many people.
others. Absolutely like gold.
Aurobindo Basu told me that when he was down in the courtyard, he said the courtyard was also golden. But
Golden, yes.
yes.
The whole ashram atmosphere was charged, absolutely charged. You cannot imagine what it was. And in his room, I mean, I have never experienced that. You can't look through solid gold, and yet I was seeing Sriyamda through solid gold. You know, it was all gold. Mother used to go there every morning. And she said that as long as he is charged with this light, he will remain there like that. At one point she was even thinking of having a case made, you know, where Sriyamda's body would be kept. And she had asked Udar to make a case. Then after on the 9th, she said at the same time make the Samadhi ready, that place. And on the 9th morning she said, no. Today evening at about 4:30 or so. And she had given plans, there will be 2 layers, you know. One to be kept for her.
Udar told me that story. He said, I won't make an upper chamber, mother.
Yes, he refused to, you
He
know.
refused to, yes.
Correct, he refused to.
And then she said, you make it? And he said, yes, mother.
I was very close to Udar because games, this, that, for everything, you know. We were very, very close. Udar was a doer. Any problem, mother will say, Udar, and Udar will find a solution to that. Starting from the swimming pool, track, everything, everything. Would you believe he made a table tennis table, and when the Indian champions came and played here, they said that was the best table they have played on, it is of international standard. And the top manufacturer of table tennis tables came to Pondicherry to learn from Udar how to make the table. When the Russian gymnasts, Olympic gymnasts came, we had equipment made in Arpaco, you know, parallel bars, uneven bars and all these things. They said it was absolutely of international standard. I mean, he was a perfectionist. His only problem was he couldn't stick for long in one thing. He will start with something else, there also he will reach perfection. He was a wonderful man. I mean, from the solution creating point of view. And mother always interested in Udar, and he had a solution.
Did you have much contact with Pranab?
We were working together in the laundry, and I knew him very well, but we had a lot of conflict also.
And when I came, it was Prithvi Singh who took me under his wing.
Did he?
Yes.
I had worked with Prithvi Singh also for some time, and in fact, He became part of the ashram press for a while, for export purposes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It became publication department from the ashram press for export of books and all that, because we could get an import license against those things. You see, often we do not understand things on the surface. Mother scolding someone. I remember the first exhibition. It was held where the laboratory is there now. It was the timber go down of the ashram. Mother said the exhibition will be held there. All the timber was removed. Dikshit was in charge of timber. And quickly the thing had to be made ready. We had put these jute bags, as background, and Udar was given a charge to make that ready. And on the day the mother is to open the exhibition on the 14th, she will come and open, and officially it will open from the 15th. 14th morning, I don't know who went and reported to mother that things are not ready. When Udar went to mother scolded him like anything. So much Udar came and sat down on the staircase like this, near the staircase. So I felt very bad about it. I immediately went and told mother, but mother, everything is ready, even the pictures are put up and all that. Who told you that the hall is not ready? And what mother said, I scolded him because he needed a scolding, not for this thing. The same thing she said, Theodora, Eckhardt's wife,
Yes, I know.
Aurobindo inauguration,
Oh, yes, yes.
she read out the translation and someone came and said that you see in German language, I think, divine there is no word, and she read out whatever was there and mother scolded her. How you could read this out? And she was not responsible. And mother said the same thing. I scolded her because she needed a scolding. See, very often she would work in ways, we cannot understand.
Robi, thank you so much. It's been a blessing for me.